nurse her back to health. And after that time frame, I'm like, all right, so like something's got to happen because at this point, I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is a relationship. I don't know if I should go. I don't know if I should stay, whatever the case may be. But I was feeling very much in a place that's conflicted. So there was two significant dreams that leading up to this point that really stuck with me. One of them I had a couple years prior to this, the year before we got engaged, that my elder had, excuse me. And then there was another dream that the Lord gave me specifically. So one of the dreams was, this is one of the elders at my church was telling me, she's like, you were, in the dream, you were writing in a notebook. And you were writing in a notebook, and you kept writing the person's name over and over again in a notebook, over and over again in a notebook, over and over again in a notebook. And she was like, I looked at, and I'm paraphrasing, I looked at the notebook, and I seen who the name was, and you hurried up and closed it. And then, like, I looked at you, and then you switched in the dream, and you were, like, super buff. And she was like, it wasn't natural, it was spiritual. And I was like, okay. So, and she's like, but right now, I can't tell you what the name is. This was, like, 3 years prior.
It took a couple years.
And I was like, what? I was like, if you're talking about cliffhangers, I'm like, what? So I'm left with this. You were writing, I love you, and all that type of stuff in the notebook. So I'm like, what? And I'm like, all right. So you just ain't gonna tell me the name. I was like, all right, whatever. Had a little inclination because this time me and her were close, but we were still like, this was like year 3 or so, year 3 or 4 of our journey, and so, after this situation, with the whole nursing her back to health, when I was right on the edge of the rope, my elder came to me and told me, she's like, I couldn't release the name, but I'm gonna release the name to you, and the name is Michelle. And that really just like cut me to the core, because I was like, this is the woman. This is the woman that God said is my wife. This is the woman that I truly love. And this is the woman that God has for me. So it's my decision, though, because that's what was told. This is my decision. I could choose to leave or I could choose to go. The other dream that I had that was significant during this whole 7-year time frame was the Lord gave me, we were like in a stadium, and Michelle was helping Michelle up the steps of the stadium, and I looked to the right, and it was two angels, and it was a rainbow. And the Lord spoke to me and said, this is the covenant that I have between you two. And so this was also during the 7-year journey. This is like after the whole notebook dream that my elder gave me. And so these are two significant dreams. And during that time frame, after the whole nursing her back to health, and after I got that word, the Lord brought back to that dream to me and said, understand this is bigger than your feelings. This is bigger than the plan that you think you have for your life. I have something together for you to accomplish, because you understand that the Lord puts marriages together not just for companionship, because that is a big part of marriage, but it's also because he has a purpose and a plan for the lives individually that he needs to bring together in order to fully accomplish and bring to fruition. And so it's bigger than me. Like, this marriage is bigger than me. It's bigger than her. And so because of that, there's like a mandate. The Lord's like, do you want to trust me that what I have for you is bigger than what you can see? Or do you want to go with, I've suffered too long, or I felt like I've suffered, or whatever the case you want to come up with, and you go about your own way? And so understand that what the Lord also gave me concerning is 5 years prior to our engagement, the Lord gave me a dream and laid out the entire walkthrough of our engagement. And for those who haven't seen the engagement video or don't know how we engaged, I'll share that at another time. But he gave me the entire vision for our engagement. And so because all these things started coming back to me and the Lord started bringing them back to me, I knew the decision that I had to make. And so a couple months after that, I got the ring. And then on May 18th, I proposed, we got engaged, and proceeded to get married. And that's where we are right now. So yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah. Talk about obedience.
So
Talk
really,
about.
no, go ahead, and then I'll say
No,
what I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say. I was gonna say I had mentioned this earlier. So the overarching thing in regards to patience is the Lord needed to develop me spiritually, but also there's things He needed to develop me naturally, like my career, being able to handle things for household, like all these type of things. He needed to develop in me, but also spiritually, being able to maturely lead a household, lead a wife. One of the things that I told her during our time of dating is that like the Lord gave me a vision of a
Umbrella.
a large umbrella, and I said underneath is your umbrella, and underneath that is the girl's umbrella. And I said if my umbrella is not large enough to encompass yours, which means if the vision that God has given you for your life, if my vision is not large enough to help accomplish it and to accompany it as outside alongside doing mine as well as the children, then you don't need to marry me anyway. Because the reality is that as a man, you're the head of your household, right? But you're also the spiritual leader of your home, right? It's God puts me in a position to be the spiritual leader for my home. That's what He mandates us as a man to do. That means when it comes to worship, that means when it comes to pursuing God, that means our heart for God. Like I'm the one that should be stepping out first. Not that my wife can't be more spiritual or whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying? But it's on me to make sure that we are going in the direction we're supposed to go according to what the Lord has positioned us to do. And so these are all things that needed to develop in me before I was ready to say I can be your husband. And so, yeah.
I think that's really awesome. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. I do want to ask before we close out.
Oh, you got questions?
Just like speak on the aspect of, one of the things that we both had in common was that we wanted to wait to be intimate,
right,
before marriage, and talk about that.
So I'll say like because of how we met, because of how we met, and because God was our foundation. Like getting to the point where we navigate that area that was not like presented to us at the very beginning,
Right.
which was a good thing because in the sense of like how most people met, like, oh, you're fine, oh, you're fine, and then you come together and you guys start dating. Like that's like your attraction is the reason you guys came together. So you have to navigate that. We didn't have that at the very beginning because we were just friends.
Everything was spiritual.
Right, everything was spiritual. So like you already have that foundation plowed to where you're like, I don't need to go there because that's not what attracted me to you in the first place.
Right.
Not to say that she wasn't attractive or I wasn't attractive, but that wasn't like the number one thing. And the good thing about that is it put up a standard that we didn't have to like try to now have to go through all this restraint because if that was the foundation, right, then 7 years of waiting would have been brutal. But you know what I'm saying? Like that would have been terrible. Yeah. But because it wasn't, and of course it entered into the picture because it wasn't like we had a standard already set, we had a foundation already set, so it was easier to navigate. Like it was easier to say, you know what, I'm about to go home and not have that tug on you so strong of wanting to be with that person. It was easier to do that.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we were not perfect by any means, right? There was plenty of times where we, before Netflix and chill, we'd be watching a movie or whatever the case, and there was touching and there was, rubbing and stuff like that. And so, but, going into a place where, we're having sex before marriage or anything like that was never something we had to approach because of that foundation. And so that helped it because it was abnormal. But there was also things we had to like navigate. Like we had to learn how to date, so we had to learn how to do all that stuff later, years after we were already super familiar with each other. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, okay.
Which was hard.
Right, which was difficult because you don't meet like that, you also now have to develop that muscle that you didn't have to develop before, and so there's plenty of times where it's like trying to like it was like elementary trying to figure out, dating and romance and stuff like that. And so, over time it was like that was something that was kind of difficult because, of course, we were attracted to each other after years of being in each other's life and being exclusive and all that. But like holding hands and being romantic, it wasn't something that came natural. And I would say more so for you than me, right?
Absolutely.
Because for me, after a while, after a couple years, and I knew this was my wife, like, look, man, like, you starting to look good. You starting to look real, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? Because when you're young, you know what I'm saying? You got like, you cool. You know what I'm saying? Like physically, a person is cool. But once you start getting to that like grown, you getting grown, you know what I'm saying? You know, all right. You see the jeans fitting a little, you know what I'm saying? Then it gets a little harder to be like, look, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home. But, and so for us, like, that's how we kind of navigate. But of course, there was things we had to deal with in that avenue. And then even later, as it became more and more apparent that like we're going this direction, it became more and more harder to, okay, I'm gonna go home. Okay, we can't be, you know, laying in the bed watching TV like we're not married, because that's happened a few times. You know, we can't be like playing house in the sense of even our interaction like a married couple, because I'm over her house all the time, and I was over her house all the time. And so, you know, like eventually we were like, okay, like we can't like, we can't do this. Let's stay late. And most of the times too, like, because like I said, like most of the times it was me being over there because she was working, you know, she got to take care of the girls, you know, like the house trying to get, and so there would be times where I'd be over there at like 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm just cleaning up because she's asleep. You know what I'm saying?
Or
there's
washing
times where,
my face because I was so tired to do it.
She used to fall asleep everywhere.
I was so tired.
And you know what I'm saying? Running herself to the bone because she was working and stuff. And then, of course, I'm working.
There's times where, like, I would get off work and he's like, Michelle, just go upstairs and just go to bed. Just go get in bed. I'll take care of the house
and everything.
There's times where he woke me up. He's like, Michelle, the house is clean. The kitchen's done. I'm going home now. Like, this dude, I woke up one day and he's like washing my face. Because in that season, I was dealing with horrible acne.
Not like pull her to the sink. Like I took
my acne was like horrible. And he's like, he knew that I was deeply impacted by that. And he's like, well, she's got makeup on. She's been working all day. She needs to wash her face. But she's in her bed knocked out. This dude done Noxema'd, warm rag, washing my face while I'm asleep. Crazy. Anyway, go ahead.
So, yeah. So, like, the intimacy thing was different than it was abnormal. It was different than what most people
very hard.
And so even though we didn't have to deal with it up front, like having to develop that in regards to our marriage was like, because even now, like we are trying to get more into the groove of dating on a regular basis, where for most couples is like that's what they do. And not to say that we don't have it, but for us it's a harder muscle to work. So I think the question comes to mind is like, oh, okay, well, would you rather have someone that you were readily attracted and develop, you know, your relationship with God, or would you rather have your relationship with God and have to develop the physical things afterwards?
So my last question is,
no, that was a question I was asking.
Oh, you was asking me a question?
No, I'm saying like that may come to mind. Like to me, that's what came to mind. Like, what would you prefer? And for me, I would say like I asked for a woman that had, you know, like for a woman who loved the Lord, pursued the Lord, because for me, the other stuff can get worked out. But if you ain't got no relationship with God, we ain't going to be equally yoked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You going one way, I'm going the other. When the times get hard, because like I told her all the time, I said, it's the times that get hard that tells us what's up.
When you're in the trenches is what he would say.
In the trenches.
When
and
you're in the trenches.
There's a lot of situations in life that in the trenches matter. So, you know what I'm saying? You could get in shape and feel all this type of way and you know what I'm saying? Like, be fine, but that emotion will come and go. You know what I'm saying?
And it does.
But when it comes down to like, if something happens to me and I need you to be a praying woman and you can't do that because we ain't developed that muscle, what's that gonna mean? Like, let's be real. The majority of life, you're dealing with hardships and pain and trying to overcome things. You're not dealing with sunshine and rainbows all the time. And you know, for me, the great times become better when the bad times are not as bad. So, yeah. To answer that question, I guess I asked you the question and answered it myself, but that's the question.
Cool. last question, because I mean, I'm sure we have 40 minutes by now.
We have an hour.
Oh my gosh.
You might have to do this release in 2 parts.
No, we're gonna release it.
No, in 2 parts. We're gonna release it in 2 parts. Because no one's
at separate times.
Yes. No one's gonna watch 40-minute videos straight.
Okay, some will.
We do this on podcasts.
Oh my god. Okay, so last question is, what were some of your practices? What were your practices to stay sane, stay connected, to stay like, you know, when you were dealing with struggles in your mind, when you were dealing with lust or feeling, you know, temptations, you know, when you were just as a man, like pursuing this woman, myself, waiting for me, like, how did you make it through 7 years in closing?
All right. So I will say, in the sense of how did I make it through, a lot of prayer. My prayer life was I mean, not saying it was different during that season, but like prayer was what helped me stay sane, because it wasn't like it was any different from God. When God tells you something about your life, it doesn't have to necessarily be about who your wife is. It could be about your career. It could be about purpose he has. It could be about your children, whatever it is, right? When he gives you that as a man, for us, we're mission and task driven. Like, I gotta do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get here. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, I knew what I needed to do in order to keep myself in the position I needed to. It was God who, you can't accomplish something spiritually naturally. So there was no way I was going to be able to get to what he had promised to me if I was going to just go about do it in my own strength, because if that's the case, what's the point? I'm going to go ahead and choose my own wife.
So, but you said...
But my point is that, like, prayer in regards to my own life, but prayer also in regards to her. Like, my earliest, or my foundation in my relationship with my wife before we were married was one built on praying for her life, right? Like, it was who she's developing to be, who she's supposed to be, what is she supposed to be growing into. Like, the purpose of marriage in Ephesians 5 is for me to die for her to be who she's supposed to be, like Christ died for the church, right? There is a sacrifice given so that she can be all she can be, right? And so my life, my foundation was built in the sense of she's got to be who she's supposed to be. I understood that, because here's the thing: before you get married, you need to understand how to be a husband. Before a woman gets married, she needs to understand how to be a wife. So it's not like I didn't spend time understanding that. And so because I spent time understanding that, I spent time understanding that I need to pray for her. But we pray for anybody that we care about and we want to see be something, right? So that was a foundation. And then as far as other things, you know, as far as like keeping myself, like there was plenty of times where I had, talking about my cousin that put me out on a blind date. You know, there's times where I was attracted to other women. There's other times where I was in situations where I was like,
So wait, who was you attracted to?
What does that matter?
What
does it matter? So, like, you act like I was like, oh, she is the only one for me, and I only have eyes for her. No, this is 7 years. There was enough other women that I looked at and was attracted to, or knew and was attracted to during that time frame. Like, I was a normal man, but I understand what I had in regards to what God was saying I had, so I keep on course, keep the race going, stay steady the race, right? So anyways, so that was the thing, because I had this connection with my relationship with God. Like, he would remind me, this is where you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to do, so on and so forth. All right. And then as far as like other things, like I had mentioned this in the last video, like this was separate from, you know, pursuing my wife, was my own personal struggles and development, like struggling with pornography, struggling with you know, rejection. You know, the spirit of rejection was a big thing in my life, and something that I still have to keep at bay. And the spirit of rejection is something that tells you you're not worth nothing, people don't care about you, people don't love you, it's always your fault, all this type of stuff, right? almost every man deals with lust in some way, shape, or form. Every man does, in some way, shape, or form. Majority of men will deal with pornography or have dealt with pornography, and even in the sense of going from women to women, that comes from a place of rejection. Like, I don't want to stay with this one. I gotta go to the next one before I get hurt, or whatever the case may be. And so, all those things, the Lord had to develop in me and help me through, during the time that I was in that 7 years, because there's plenty of times where I'm like, I don't understand why I need to be here pursuing this woman. Yeah, just to answer your question.
All right. Well, I think that's great.
2-hour video.
I hope that I don't know.
I hope that someone gets something out of this.
Yeah.
And I hope I wasn't too long-winded and rambling.
Well, it's long.
It's coherent.
It's long. But it's really good. I think that a lot of good points were made. I think that just your journey, like, it's very clear, to the point, very thorough, I think. So yeah.
So anyways, pray you guys have a great day, great week. And you can look forward to probably another long video next week.
Because I'm telling it all, okay? I'm sharing it all. Okay.
What is that supposed to mean? I didn't share it all?
I'm messing
Did I not
up.
share it all?
This feels like deja vu, which is weird. But anyways, no, I'm just...
We're going to cut this part out. Anyways. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. You can go back and look at the last 2 videos, and we're going to post the videos we made in Mexico at some point soon, too. So,
oh, yeah.
All these videos are going to be on our YouTube channel, so you can check that out. It's Dontae, Dontae, ampersand, which is the and symbol, Michelle, Michelle, Delgado. We'll probably end up changing it to When Patients Met Faith, but until we do, you can check us out there. We'll have links in the Facebook post as well. Like, share, comment, pray for us, please. Hopefully this was coherent and good, and that you guys get a little more insight into our journey, and that you can glean some wisdom or knowledge or something from it. So anyways.
All right, y'all. Well, we will see you back next week, and we will continue the story of the 7-year wait from my point of view and my experience, my journey. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the encouragement, because I tell you, this has not been easy, but the encouragement has truly been an inspiration to keep going. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Mwah.